Welcome, fellow watch lovers. Today we're looking at the San Martin SN031. It's a homage to a more obscure watch than what San Martin typically releases, and I personally appreciate the unique aesthetics here. So first, let's look at specifications of the piece. We have a stainless steel case, sapphire crystal, hands, and printed indices that are lumed with C3 superluminova, a domed sapphire crystal that creates quite a bit of distortion at different angles, which I think adds a lot of interest to the piece. One of the most unique attributes to this piece is the California dial, a mixture of Roman and Arabic numerals for the dial layout. The side of the case is also quite unique. We do have drilled lug holes to make strap swaps very easy, but you'll notice the side of the taper of the case makes it so that it doesn't really hug your wrist other than on kind of the back plate design where it rests on the back of your wrist. Part of the side here really hovers off of your wrist. We have a tang buckle clasp here made to very high standard. The strap material is particularly thick and I would say stiff off the bat. I'm sure this will loosen up over time, but it's kind of two pieces of nylon stitched together, and I'm assuming this is going to make it even more rugged than you would usually get on a piece. I mean, it feels very high quality, but I think it will take some break-in. So we have brush keepers here on the strap, and you can see reinforcement of the stitching on both sides. Looks to be done to a very high standard. The clasp itself has brushing on the top. It does have this polished or partially polished side, and then the other part of the side is brushed. Then the back, of course, is brushed. You have a rather plain case back. You can see the circular brushing on the lug portion and some of that sun raying effect on the center of the back here. We have a screw down crown with a signed S logo. Doesn't really match the S of the San Martin logo here. It's that typical, people call it and look at it almost as like a $sign logo. So looking at the head of the piece here again, we have the brush top. This is the only area where I think could have really seen some improvement on the case finishing, is that I've heard such good things about the case finishing on this piece and it being above others that have kind of tried to mimic the style, but realistically, see if we can actually picture and capture it on camera. But maybe that shows it right there. You can see it, the inconsistency in the finish. I'm going to pull it over to the other side. You can see that just looks more consistent. We do have a screw down crown, very well threaded, easy to put in and out of the watch. It does have a YN55 movement, so the winding is a little more gritty than on a Seiko NH35. There are a few of these that have NH35s in them. I think the warehouse said that only those were available. They're shipped from Spain, so the typical ones that you get out of the China warehouse on AliExpress for most countries, they had the YN55. I personally always prefer having the Seiko NH35 due to kind of the smooth winding as well as known reliability, ease of finding a replacement movement if you need to have it serviced, because it's going to cost you less to actually replace the movement in most instances than it would be to have a watchmaker tear the watch apart and actually service the movement itself. I try to give some close-ups of the domed crystal here, and it causes that interesting distortion. So I really love that aspect of this piece. Kind of adds to that vintage flavor of this, even though this is obviously not really inspired on a true vintage watch outside of the California dial itself. The K-shape and design has some throwbacks to that, but is clearly kind of a modern reinterpretation of a vintage military styling. I appreciate it because it looks so different than everything else that's in the collection. I love gray dials and has a nice matte finish to it that I really like and appreciate. I love the style of this particular piece. So many times you look at your watch box and you say it's just yet another diver. This to me feels interesting and different, and I love the versatility of being able to swap out the strap very easily. You can see here on the back that we do have quick release pins so that you can take off the strap and then put on your own NATO. There's other NATOs on the market that fit it very well. You obviously have to be careful of the fact that because this does end up tapering in, and it can sit very, very high off your wrist if you get a thick double NATO style strap under there. So I think on some of these, they actually may provide a NATO that does the full pass through. On this one, I think it's the right call to include one that doesn't have any passes on it and leaves the back case so it'll stick closer to your wrist. So outside of that top brushing of that lug, this to me feels like a lot of value for the money. While it has kind of some angular edges to it, they don't feel sharp to me. I always love brushing on a piece. I'm someone who wants really the minimal amount of polishing to add interest to a piece, but in a military inspired piece, I want as much brushing as possible. And this really kind of checks some of those boxes for me. I like the color scheme and the uniqueness of the piece. And the price point is definitely lower than most San Martins that have an automatic movement in them. And I appreciate the value that provides, and you still get great lume on this piece, which if you go with maybe some other manufacturers that try something stylistically similar, usually they're going to compromise on the lume, and I always like having enough lume for it to last a while and glow fairly brightly, and this does a good enough job for that while still having the vintage overall aesthetic. I highly recommend picking up this piece while it's on sale to get the price discounted even further than it normally is. Let's take a quick look at some of the measurements of the piece. You have a 38 millimeter diameter case, 13.87 with the dome top, lug to lug of 47.62. The strap width on these is 20 millimeters, and as you can see, it does not taper. And kind of the widest portion of the clasp is about 28 millimeters. The head of the piece, without any spring bars or strap, is around 84 grams. Adding the included strap adds it up to about 102 grams. And adding it with a standard AliExpress NATO, you can see that it's about 99 grams with spring bars. I hope this review has been valuable to you. And if you like and enjoy this type of content, please like and subscribe to the channel.